did this whole world come to be?
Every single person here gets a base of 500,000K a year.
The story begins with Greg being summoned to the boss's office. The secretary warns that the boss has stepped out and asks Greg to wait in the office. Greg sits down, but when the boss returns and announces Greg's firing, he seems not to hear it. As the boss leans in to check if Greg is okay, Greg suddenly stands up and pushes the man. The boss falls, hits his head, and dies instantly. A frightened Greg hides the body behind a curtain, and the secretary who enters thinks the boss hasn't arrived yet. Greg leaves, promising to return later. He goes to a bar across from the office and orders a drink. Suddenly, a woman sitting at a table starts to show him attention. She calls him real and demonstrates her telekinetic abilities. The woman knows what he has done because she is the one who created this world with its unintended consequences. She asks Greg to go to the restroom and retrieve her boyfriend's yellow crystals that belong to her. In exchange for this favor, she promises to clear him of the murder charges. Greg goes to the restroom, finds the unconscious boyfriend, and takes an amulet with yellow crystals from his hand. The woman had said these crystals could control this fake world. After fulfilling her request, the woman takes Greg's hands and explains that the world is just light reflected off human neurons. It's malleable and can be changed. Meanwhile, the boss's body in the office starts to move, slides its hand to open the window, and falls out onto the street, right in front of a group of office workers. Greg rushes to the scene and everyone sees him coming from the bar, so no suspicion falls on him. The woman leads Greg away as everyone saw he was not involved. Greg wants to return for his wallet containing all his documents and money, but the woman urges him to forget it and convinces him to sell his phone at a pawn shop for a pittance. On TV, the news reports the police are considering a murder angle, but the woman offers Greg to stay with her in a tent city under a bridge where they have electricity and a soundless TV. On TV, Greg learns that the boss's death is ruled an accident, meaning he is free. But he has nowhere to go, as he was living in a hotel and left his key and documents in the office. The woman offers him to stay and teaches him to control the world with telekinesis. Greg enjoys this, telling her about his dream home, which he always draws. He shows her the drawings, and she realizes he's drawn her and tells him that's their real life. In the real world, they are a couple, although he has forgotten her name, Isabel. Meanwhile, Greg's daughter Emily goes to her brother Arthur. She asks for his help in finding their father, but Arthur is reluctant to interact with a father who was too busy with work and forgot about his children. Meanwhile, Greg and Isabel arrive at a roller skating rink, and after taking yellow crystals, they have a great time. Isabel insists that the people around them aren't real, so she suggests knocking them over. Greg is initially hesitant, but then he starts pushing people around with the power of his mind. They find this very amusing, and the couple entertains themselves until they get bored. Upon leaving, they steal clothes and watch the arriving police. They then teleport themselves into a police car and are brought to the station, where they continue to have fun. They leave when they tire of the game. Meanwhile, Emily searches nearby hotels hoping to find her father, but to no avail. Later, Isabel suggests going to eat and asks Greg to order while she steps away. Greg goes to a cafe and sees Isabel stopping a car. Then she gets in and drives away. He leaves the cafe without eating, unaware that his son is there and sees everything. Later, the bartender brings him expired food, mistaking him for a homeless person. Isabel returns and suggests going to Kendo, a real person who synthesizes crystals. Near his house, the couple separates. Isabel enters the house, while Greg stays outside where his daughter Emily finds him. She asks him to come with her, but he can't, waiting for Isabel. Emily forgives him for missing her graduation and gives him a photo with her home phone number. After she leaves, Isabel returns and insists Greg forget about his daughter, claiming she's not real. They argue, but a local hooligan intervenes. Greg asks for a yellow crystal and uses telekinesis to flip the hooligan's car. In the morning, Greg wakes up in the tent camp, but Isabel is nowhere to be found. After searching for her, he stumbles upon his daughter's photo with a phone number and heads to the nearest payphone. No one answers the call, and Greg returns, only to be met with Isabel's frustration. She was afraid she had lost him. Emily is not real, she is a simulation. But Greg can't believe it, as Isabel provides no other proof, so she takes out special crystals, blue ones. Each of them should take 10, but there are only 16 in total. Isabel calms him and herself, saying it will be fine, loads the crystals into a special device, and hands it to Greg. It's time to leave the simulation. Greg inhales and finds himself in a room where people are sitting in chairs, connected to a single computer by breathing tubes. An assistant calls Isabel Dr. Clemens and asks about her well-being. She complains that Greg took the generated personality imitation too seriously, which forced them to exit the simulation. It's good that Kendo helped find the blue crystals. Isabel points to a guy in simulation whom she met in that world. She asks to disconnect Dr. Whitla, and the guy hurries to Greg. Greg starts asking questions and learns that Emily is also an imitation. They step outside, and Greg is astonished by the beauty of the place. Beautiful people and strange translucent figures are everywhere, which Isabel calls telepresence. It turns out people have learned to transmit their images remotely, experiencing the joy of interaction while staying at home. Isabel leads Greg to the waterfront, and he marvels at the surrounding beauty, wondering why he doesn't remember any of this. She reassures him that memory loss happens and will soon be restored. She shows him their home. Greg realizes he was always drawing the real world. Meanwhile, Emily continues to search for her father in the simulated world while he dines and enjoys the comfort of his real home and wife. In the evening, Isabel admits she was irresponsible for exiting the simulation without enough blue returning crystals, causing his memory loss. The real world used to be terrible, with extreme pollution and poverty. But automation, synthetic biology, and asteroid mining changed everything. She remembers his invention, a thought visualizer, and brings out the device's monitor, which draws whatever a person is thinking about. Greg names objects, and they immediately appear in the drawings. With his help, Isabel explains how synthetic biology solved all ecological problems, and asteroid mining brought financial prosperity to the world. Every person is given $500,000 a year just like that. All the boring and tedious work is done by robots. People now have freedom and time to develop their interests. Earth has become safe and prosperous, but people easily get used to a good life. That's why she invented the brain box, to compare the good with the bad and be grateful for achievements. Greg begs his wife to stay there for one more day, which they spend swimming in the sea and relaxing on a yacht. In the evening, they go to the city, where a scientist concerned about Isabel's research approaches Greg and asks to keep an eye on her. The next morning, Isabel asks Greg to return to the brain box as she needs to finish her research. But he opposes, arguing she already has enough data and doesn't want to go back to that world. He agrees to give her a public interview instead. In the evening, a BrainBox presentation is organized. The host talks about Isabel, who came up with the idea of simulating bad worlds so people can compare life there and here. Isabel calls Greg to the stage to compare his answers before and after visiting the BrainBox world. It turns out he was an impossible grump and cynic, displeased with everything. The new Greg is happy with everything, but suddenly during the interview, he sees Emily appearing in the hall and freezes. The girl disappears, and Greg thanks Isabel. Later, a queue forms of people wanting to talk to the genius Isabel, while Greg again sees the translucent Emily and runs after her. She reminds him that he has a daughter and son who love him. Greg tells her she's not real. Then the daughter recalls sweet details from her childhood, asking her father to choose the world he wants to stay in. Meanwhile, a commotion starts below. Isabel is caught in the center, pushed and pulled in different directions, realizing something went wrong. She calls for Greg, and Emily disappears. The man takes a yellow crystal and parts the crowd with a wave of his hands. Isabel is shocked, as these powers shouldn't work in the real world. Nonetheless, a real commotion begins around them, intertwining realities of different worlds. The couple runs to the laboratory. Apparently, by taking an incomplete dose of blue crystals, they somehow brought part of the simulation into the real world. They need to fix this urgently, but the blue crystals are only in that world. They lie in the chairs and end up back in the simulation. Isabel calls Greg to find Kendo and leads him to a bar across from his former office. To his surprise, he sees his former colleagues, and the boss who fell from the window is alive. Greg demands answers, but Isabel pulls him away, reminding him that everything around is a fabricated world. The couple robs a man, taking his car and money since they need to pay for the blue crystals in this world. They drive to Kendo's laboratory. Kendo agrees to give them the crystals, but he suspiciously reaches towards his belt, prompting Isabel to shoot him. It turns out Kendo had no weapon, but Isabel is sure he is fine in the real world. She finds a packet of blue crystals on his body, and the couple flees, especially as the police storm the building. The police chase them. Emily runs to her brother because she was informed about their father's sighting. Together they head to the tent camp. The police surround the camp, demanding the criminals come out. Isabel counts the crystals, and there are disastrously few. Only one can return home. Isabel charges a special device and gives it to Greg. Then he suggests killing himself to return to reality, but Isabel isn't sure it will work. She cries in helplessness as she created all this. Then Greg suddenly admits that this world isn't bad either. He has children here. At that moment, Emily runs out onto the bridge and shouts down to her father, begging him to surrender and stay alive. Greg asks to be left here. Isabel steps out to the center, distracting the police, and after making sure Greg has sneaked past the camp's perimeter, she takes the crystals. The man flees, using the loud signals of passing cars. He goes to a rehabilitation clinic where people like him with difficulties are accepted. He tells them about a girl who calls him father, and he believes her. Sometime later, Greg comes to a park where Emily is sitting on a bench. She is glad that her father overcame his addiction and admits that she loves him. This is where the film ends. People often try to escape from their problems, which weigh heavily on them. They often imagine another life where happiness and peace reign, but one should not forget that every person independently creates their inner world, and which of them is real can only be decided by that person.